Hey, we're back tonight. I'm just going to have a little bit of a short little hangout tonight. I really don't want to go very long, and I know I say that a lot, and we end up going all night long. This is not going to be one of those nights. I just got back from a mile walk. I walk a mile in the morning, and sometimes I walk a mile at night. Today I did both, so I just wanted to have a little hangout talking about some of the things that's been going on. One of which has been Cosmic Skeptic's videos, and I got to tell you, I have talked to Cosmic Skeptic about this, and I want to make sure that I'm trying to steelman him the best I can. I have asked him what his positions are, so this is kind of something based upon what I've had a conversation with him, not so much that he said from his videos, although I think that everything that's I'm going to be talking about is found on his videos, so nothing too surprising. But I'm just trying to maybe figure out if I'm misunderstanding something, and so when I go back to him to have a conversation, I don't want to look like the idiot because I could have some limitation on my end that I'm missing, and that's if it is, that's fine. But that's what I want to ask you guys about. I have Ned in here; maybe he can kind of help me suss it out. I have the live feed, and maybe you guys can help me suss it out. But let me try to tell you where I'm having confusion from, and I have a little belief map here. Maybe we can like do something with Ned and figure out what Ned's position is by the belief map and use the same thing to apply to Cosmic Skeptic. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole is-ought and Hume, things like that. I don't have a good grounding on it. I've been talking to a few people about it, like Dar's Greatest Hits and a few other people. I get the basics. I understand the concept of human skeleton, but the talk that he's having with rationality rules, like deriving an ought from an ought rather than an ought from an is, and the difference between a hypothetical and a categorical and all this other stuff, not really something that I'm really that well read on. And so I don't want to get into that aspect of it. What I'd rather get into is the meta-ethical positions that he seems to have that I find to be a contradiction. And again, I'm going to allow the audience to kind of chime in here to see if it's something that maybe I'm misunderstanding or he's misunderstanding, right? So I have a message from him, and again, this is not private stuff. This is stuff you can find on his videos and stuff. Okay, so he says he's a non-cognitivist. So let me explain what a non-cognitivist is. A moral non-cognitivist is basically somebody who thinks that a proposition doesn't relate beliefs. It is a non-truth apt position. In other words, if I have a proposition as like, the sun is bright, that's a yes or no, or excuse me, a true or false proposition. That's truth apt. It could be true, that is, the sun is bright, or it's false, the sun is not bright. But some things are not truth apt. If I just have a statement that is not either true or false or have anything propositionally, then that's a non-cognitive position. So the non-cog basically says moral propositions are not propositions at all. Their moral statements don't express any kind of belief. And there's different types of non-cognitive positions, one of which is called emotivism. He says he tends to emotivism, although I don't think he's married to emotivism, much like the way I'm not married to error theory, right? But he says an emotivist. Now, a emotivist basically is somebody who says that a proposition is basically expressing displeasure about something. Right? They recognize that a proposition is not a moral statement is not a belief proposition. It's not truth apt, but they translate it into more of an emotive state, such as it's called the booyah boo theory, or boo meaning displeasure, yah meaning approval. So if I say something like stealing is wrong, it's boo stealing. It's expressing it in a way that I'm saying I have a displeasure for stealing. Right? So it's not saying stealing is necessarily right or wrong. It's just saying that I personally have displeasure on it. Right? Now, that's perfectly fine. I mean, emotivism is a perfectly valid position, right? It's just that it's not really making any kind of moral judgment per se. It's just basically saying this is how I think of this particular thing, and I disprove of it. I have a disapproval of it. Okay. The problem I'm having, though, is that he also claims that, at least from my understanding, that he's a moral subjectivist, right? Because he always will say there's no such thing as objective morality. He has an argument that no objective morality can't exist, which I think is highly flawed. But be that as it may, he does talk a lot about moral subjectivity. And I don't know if he's actually just putting himself into like an internalist position with rationality rules and saying, if I'm going to evaluate it from your worldview, and I hate that word, but I'm going to use it, then I'm going to be able to talk about it, or if he actually holds that all morals are subjective. I don't remember if he's ever said it or not. I thought he has said that morals are subjective. I'm pretty sure that he has. But if it's the case, Okay, Dar's great says he says motivism is not reporting of your mental states. Yeah, but it's still reporting. It's still expressing a displeasure, right? I mean, it's not your mental state, but it's your displeasure of the whatever it is, stealing or murder or things of that nature. Right? If it's my mental states, it's going to be subjectivism, right? It's going to be ethical subjectivism. If it's based upon my personal mental state, then that would be subjectivism. You're right. Okay. Um, but when he talks about subjectivism, that's a cognitivist position. What a subjectivist would say is there are moral facts, right? And some moral facts are true, and they express beliefs, and they're truth apt. The difference between a moral subjectivist and objectivist is the only difference is that an objectivist says that it's not contingent upon an individual's mind or beliefs for themselves, but there's some other standard by which they're gauging it by. But they're both admitting that there's moral facts, that moral propositions relate belief states. They both relate that I believe this to be the case. I believe that like stealing is wrong, right? And if it's objectively true, it's stealing wrong because of some objective moral standard. Or I can say it's stealing is wrong because I believe stealing is wrong for whatever reason. You can apply to some kind of normative thing for that. But I see a contradiction here because how do you have emotivism and a non-cognitive position, but at the same time argue for ethical subjectivism? Nate, Ned, do you want to like try to help me parse that out? And again, live chat, help me out with this because maybe I haven't heard him right, but I know he said he's a non-cognitivist. I've heard that, and he's written me that. He tends to emotivism. He said that as well, which means that also I think he tends to verificationism, maybe even logical positivism. I don't know. I think both of them are flawed. I think verificationism is inherently flawed, but because how do you verify that? Do you need verification? I don't know how that would work, but.
Well, I mean,
do you get what I'm going with this, Ned?
Oh yeah, I mean, I can see
diametrically different categories.
Yeah, and that's why I mean the first thing that pops to mind always when you end up with such a, like you said, a complete dichotomous stance here, that are almost completely opposite, is that because it's so easy, especially if you're not using this every day, to get confused with these terms. Are you sure he hasn't confused any of the terms and he's maybe...
It's quite possible. And here's where I say that. There's two possible things. And again, I wanted to steel man him, and I'm asking some really smart people on this. There's two ways that I can see him steel manning him. One is and I'm just aware of this today, what's called a hybrid non-cognitive state. And I'm not familiar enough to even go into that. But however, the person that's describing that moral hybrid non-cognitive state, it says it's pretty advanced, and I can see the basis from it. I get the gist of it, right? But I don't think that he's arguing a hybrid type situation. I think it's way more technical than we will get into. The other option is that he's using subjectivism in a completely different way from anybody else, and that might be possible because the word means a lot of different things to different people in different literatures. I've seen it used different ways. Right, I've had people say subjectivism rejects moral facts, and I found that some subjectivists do reject moral facts, although that's not what subjectivism is. Ethical subjectivism accepts there are moral facts. It's just that they're contingent upon the mind, the individual, right? And if they're contingent upon the society and it's relative in a cultural sense, and that would be a cultural relativism thing that is based upon, right? So there's a difference between subjectivity and relativism. They're completely different things in some ways.
Right, and I think that's what I'm saying is that unless you play with this quite a bit, it's very easy to conflate terms or even completely misunderstand, what these mean. And whereas you're using a very accurate and constrained definition, he may be kind of, like you said, expanding that beyond what most of us would look at, encompassing within that framework. So that would be the first thing, is to, if you're going to steel man him again, which you always do.
I really do. I really try to. I don't go after people, for bad arguments until I realize that their arguments are so bad that they can't be fixed. Right. And you see me do that today, like today on non sequitur. What the hell was that? I mean, there was such a bad argument. I couldn't take any charitable position to it, right?
Yeah. And well, because we were off air, nobody knew. We stayed around for me and Ocean for, I don't know, what was it,
He's
2 hours?
interesting. I mean, I've known him for a while. I didn't realize how long I've known the guy.
And to be honest, I mean, he seems like a really good guy. He
Yeah, he's a nice
seems
guy.
genuine. He wants to bring these things, and he, I think, believes them. I don't think he's disingenuous.
No, he's not just. He does believe this. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just it's hard for him to support what he's saying, and I mean, again, I don't want to run him down. I like the conversation. He does tend to talk over a little bit, which tends to get me a little, I guess, more excited. But other than that, it went pretty well.
Yeah, it was really funny. He's like, I'm gonna let you finish your sentence. 3 words into his sentence, he was interrupting him again, and he not just once, not just twice, but I mean, like half a dozen times this happened. It was kind of comical.
And again, if it's somebody that is doing it to manipulate the conversation and shut it down, that's one thing. And I'll pretty much bow out pretty quick with that. But he doesn't seem that way. He just seems like he's excited, and he wants to get his point across. And as soon as he thinks he understands, what the pushback is, he wants to jump right on it. Which, yeah, I mean, I understand that. It's tough to get a point across when you only have 3 words. So.
Yeah, it's
But
funny
yes,
you mentioned that, though. That you see the distinction between his just being aggressive or impatient rather than the people that want to shut down the conversation. You and I have been around for a very long time. We've seen the type of method where people go into a conversation and try to just shut it down by being a contrarian or interrupting. We see flat earthers do it all the time. Eric Wolfen, Bitten, Jewel, Dickhead, whatever the hell his name is. He used to do it all the time. I mean, so we know that personality type, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, the one that bothered me and got my goat, to be honest with you. I mean, I got fairly livid with him. Was Matt? God, Matt Slick does it some.
Matt Slick or Matt Powell?
Well, no, the other Matt.
Matt Bell.
Matt Bell. There you go.
Bell End.
Yeah, yep, Matt Bell, and then also Dawkins Deity. Those two.
Darwin's Deity. Yeah, they're the most infamous, right? I mean, by all means, they're contrarians beyond contrarian. So let's look at this belief map real quick. Let me try to narrow down your position if you don't care. But I have this belief map here that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And basically, the only way I think this is going to work if you just say yes or no. And I'm sorry, don't do
right. I mean, and you know me, I like to try to suss out more nuance, but I'll try to do yes and no as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay, one sec.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know a lot of people want to get in, but I don't have much time, and I really do want to narrow down with Ned here. So I'll try to get people in a little while, but I'm not going to do it right now. Okay, so the first question: is there moral truth?
Yes.
Okay, so do you know if that makes you a realist or an anti-realist? What do you think?
Realism is what I would think.
Okay, so you're a moral realist. Okay, right. Which, by the way, nothing wrong with moral realism, people. People have this weird thing that, if there's no such thing as moral realism, that's stupid. I don't know.
Like I said, Sokka wasn't real happy when I said that, especially as much as I tend to argue. A lot of times it would seem the contrary to that, but
Sokka is definitely a moral anti-realist.
Oh yeah, he is, and I think that's what I think he included me in his camp, and then when I said that on whatever show it was, he was like, "What are you talking? You all the time are fighting against." And I'm like, Sokka, I'm showing the problems with the belief system using anti-realism, but in reality, I still think there can be, moral truth.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no. See, and it's weird because I'm a more anti-realist, but for very different reasons, right? Because I totally accept there could be moral realism. No problem there. Objective morality, no problem. The people that argue against objective morality, I'm sorry, I just don't think they have a clue. I don't. I've listened to their arguments. It doesn't make any sense, especially when we get into this weird subjective reductionism approach. But the reason I fall into anti-realism is only a technical thing, because error theory technically falls under anti-realism, because even though you're saying morals express there are moral claims that do express beliefs, that falls under error theory. So it's not a non-cognitive position, error theory. So I think error theory should be under non-cog myself in a way. But the fact that error theories an error theorist would say, yes, they express moral beliefs, but they're all false. And I don't even like using that word. I use the word untrue. because they're not really, in my opinion, false. They're untrue, and there's a little technical difference there. But anyways, all right. So you're moral realist. Okay, is moral knowledge possible?
Again, that one's. I
That
want
is
to
what it is.
say. I mean, God, you when you're going through these, you know how much I just want to jump down these and start going, yeah, but so again, I'll try to be nice and say,
This is just a simple bifurcated
oh,
chart that I'm using, by the
I
way. So
know,
it's
and
not.
that's I know, and that's one of the reasons that I don't necessarily like these maps because
I know
they're
they're not great. They're not. They don't. This doesn't lock you in any position, right? You can change later on.
oh,
This is just what it is.
and I will. I mean, that's
Right.
the whole thing is
Right.
So I would say a qualified yes, and I won't get into the qualifications.
Okay. So no. By the way, no would be moral skepticism, which means
Right.
that there is no. You can't have moral knowledge. Yes would be going on to. Does the moral truth fundamentally depend on our attitudes?
I the thing is the problem when you say the attitude, I equate that with goal.
No, no, no. Attitudes would be our beliefs, like a belief, like I think that means like a propositional attitude, like depend on our belief. A belief is a propositional attitude. So
Right.
if I say the moral truth fundamentally depends on what I believe.
Right. And what I'm saying is I would think you would derive those attitudes from the goal, the overarching goal. And
Yeah,
that's
there is something to be said from that. I think what it is I think something along the lines of desire
right.
motivates. What is it? I forget the old adage. Desire motivates something. To motivates a goal. To motivates action.
Yeah.
Somebody in the live chat will have to remind me of it. It's been a while since I looked at that little atom axiom thingy, whatever they call it is.
So
Adage.
under that kind of again qualifier, I'd say yes. Oh, by the way, taking a step back, you do realize that that's the gnome argument is absolutely um, designed around that previous question and demonstrating that you know you cannot have moral knowledge. That especially the second horn, and that's why I was hoping we'd get a chance to get back with Cy, because again, I think that as much as we got ferreted out tonight, he still feels that he has the ability to not only have morals but be able to make decisions on them, and that's where the second horn comes in. But again, we won't go that.
Yeah,
Go there.
I have no problem with the concept of the moral knowledge is possible. That's not a big deal to me. The question I think would be of more interest is how do we how do we ascertain that moral knowledge? How do we go
Well,
about
that
knowing what the moral facts are?
right, and that's what I'm saying is that getting that foundation that we established tonight springboards us into demonstrating that at least under the Christian umbrella with an omni god, there's no way. There's absolutely, in my opinion, no way to make any moral decision, good or bad. So, like I said, I attack morality as a three-legged stool. First, can it exist underneath the conditions that you believe that you're living under? And again, I think that first one demonstrates that no, everything has to be good with an omni god that has a good plan. That's what the first leg is. Secondarily, then even if we ignore that fact and say yes, morals can exist, we have no way to determine what is good and bad. And then finally, even if you could get past that and somehow make a moral claim, you have no justification for why you made that claim. So the not only does the stool fall down because you lose one of the legs, the stool evaporates. There's nothing.
And I like your argument. I don't think it's a bad argument. I really don't. I don't think that God really gets you out of the problem of getting an objective framework. I think there's other. I have no problem like Harris's objective framework. I think that you can ground it in the way he does harms and benefits. I think Wittgenstein you grounds it in empathy. Yeah. But okay, so let's move on to the next question. Let's see here. Okay, so are the attitudes in question beliefs? So when you're saying that stealing is wrong, are you expressing a proposition that are saying I believe stealing is wrong? Because you. Because these are propositions, right? I mean, now
Right.
because you're a realist, you think that propositions are truth apt, right? Because you
Right.
think that they do depend on an attitude, which is belief. The question I ask, do you think that these attitudes do express a belief?
Again, conditionally, yes, and I would say limited. Um, Again, we could go on that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to be yes or no.
All right. No,
So
that's fine. Okay. So where this ends up is you would be falling into relativism and or
right.
subjectivism. And it depends on what you're talking about, whether cultural or individual. So you would be what's called a realist, a moral realist, and a moral subjectivist or an ethical subjectivist. Okay.
I think that's fairly accurate. I mean, there's some, again, that's the problem is all these labels. There's definitely a lot of nuance and a lot
Oh,
of things you got to
absolutely.
suss
Oh,
out.
dude. If you picked the other path, we would have been lost. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of these things. Let me tell you some of these other things that they go into, because it deals with analytical naturalism. So
Yeah.
you ready for this? Ready? Analytical naturalism, synthetic naturalism, reductive analytic naturalism, non-reductive analytic naturalism, reductive synthetic naturalism, non-reductive synthetic naturalism. I have no idea beyond I know what analytic naturalism barely is. The rest of them, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell those positions even mean. Okay,
Yeah.
so
And what's funny is going back on that. I hate to say it, and hopefully it wouldn't be this, but it almost a lot of the questions there. I feel like I can almost. I'm like, I guess 48-52. So almost with a change in the wind, I could be saying no, on some of
oh,
those.
sure,
So
absolutely. Yeah,
it's
yeah. These are flexible things. But let me ask you. This is again going back to the cosmic acceptance. This is where I get confused. If I ask somebody, if something is wrong, if stealing is wrong, and I ask them, is that expressing a belief? And they say, yeah, that's subjective, right? Stealing is
right.
wrong. I can say stealing wrong is wrong because I believe stealing is wrong. The proposition is expressing a belief. That's perfectly fine to do that. The only problem is that's a cognitivist position.
Yeah.
That's it's a moral cognitivist position. So if you do that, then how can at the same time you hold to emotivism, which is a
Okay.
non-cognitivist position? That's where I'm
That's
having the issue here.
well. See, that's why I'm saying it's so incongruent with, like you said, it doesn't follow. It's I don't see how you could get from one to the other and make it in any way be coherent. So only thing I can think of is, again, he mixed up terms, which again, like you said, it's very easy to do in this. So I'd
I
clarify
don't think
that.
he's mixing up terms. I just think he's using the word subjective differently.
Or yeah, that's the other possibility. He could definitely be used as subjective in a colorful way.
Do you
And
think he's using it? Okay. Do you think, again, an ethical subjectivist will say moral facts exist and some propositions are true? Do you think he's using it that way? Because if he's arguing against subjective morality and he keeps on saying morals are subjective, I don't know how else to take it, but he's a subjectivist.
I'm trying to. That's kind of where I'm stuck too. I'm trying to think if there's any other way out or any way around. I don't see. I don't see how you could.
I don't either. Let me ask live chat. What do you guys think? And by the way, like I said, if somebody wants to argue that objective morality is not a thing, I want to see their actual argument. Not just there's no such thing as actual or objective morality, or there can't be objective morality. Show me an argument, because I got to tell you, I've never seen a good one yet. And I think that Cosmic Skeptics was, one of the more interesting approaches, but I think it's fundamentally flawed from the get-go. All it is a subjective reductionism approach, and he's basically saying that everything boils down the fact that we have different brain states, therefore everything's subjective. But that's not what that's not what it means. When we try to say that there's an objective moral standard, if you have something that you outside of yourself where you say it's wrong to do this, it is always the case that this is wrong by some measure, then you can say that it's subjective. I have no problem. We have objective facts all the time, so I don't know why people get all weirded out by objective moral facts, right? I really don't understand that, because if they accept there are objective facts, 1+1=2 is an objective fact because it's analytical, right? You have two types of things. You have analytical and synthetic, and an analytical proposition is true by definition, right? So 1+1=2 is true by axiomatic definitions, or an unmarried bachelor. That's true by
Well, again, be
analytical
careful
definition.
because, well, I guess 1 plus 1. Be careful in that again, because I've actually used that in an argument as well, because the assumption is you're talking base 10.
No, no,
If
no,
you're
no, no,
going
no,
to,
no.
yeah,
Hang on, hang on. Let me finish.
yeah,
1 plus 1 is always true by axiomatic definitions. If you start changing the bases, all you're doing is you're changing the numerical symbol, but the values are exactly the same. Even in binary, 1 plus 1 equals 1 0. 1 0 is
right.
still equal to 2. So you're not changing
Well,
it. It's still the same thing. You're looking at the numerals rather than the values, right? But 1 plus 1 equals 2.
right.
We're talking
I
about
mean,
that. We're talking about the values.
yeah, I agree on that end of it.
Okay,
I'm just saying, be
you're looking at a
careful.
different property. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And I know it's a semantic little stupid game, but it's, again, the assumption there, you got to make sure that you're on the same page. And I use that to demonstrate a lot of times, when you're talking
Oh,
past each other.
I think that even different bases, it's the same page. Even if you change bases, 1 plus 1 is always going to be equal to 2. Always. Even at different bases. The difference is the base is going to be represented differently. The number that's going to be that number 2 is going to be looked at differently. 2 is going to be represented by 1 0, but it's still 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's
Well,
not 1 plus
okay.
1 equals 10.
Well, you got to be careful, because if you're
It's 10 base. Yeah,
again,
exactly. Hang on.
it's semantics.
No, it's not.
It's,
It's mathematics. Abad just put it perfectly. 1 plus 1 equals 10 base 2, right?
right.
The 10 base 2 is equal to 2. So 1 plus 1 is always equal to 2 just by changing the base. And I had this discussion with Brian, who's a statistician. And of course, he fully agrees with this. So, but we're getting to math. So let's get. I want to get back
okay.
to
Right.
the
Go the other way.
philosophy
That's
stuff.
fine. Yeah.
So, anyways, like I said, if people want to argue there's no objective morality, they need a good argument, because people have been arguing for 2,000 years or whatever on this. And it's really kind of a minor point. It's kind of moot in some ways, because whether there's objective or subjective morality, who cares? All that is a meta-ethical theory. All that's saying is, do moral propositions that express beliefs, are they contingent upon an individual, or is there some objective value by which we can measure it by and say, this is the way it is, regardless of what anybody believes? I have no problem with somebody say, hey, it is objectively wrong to rape. I have no issue with that, because I can't imagine it ever being a morally good thing to rape. And people can say, well, what about the situation where you have to push a button and the whole world explodes? That's not what we're talking about, because those are different hypotheticals. Right? Those are different things altogether. Still not a good thing to ever rape. If you have to rape to save the entire world, that's not a good thing. And you obviously your argument deals with something very similar, but your argument deals it's only always a good thing if you have perfect knowledge, if you're omnipotent.
Well, again, the only means at hand for an omnipotent God, an all good God, an omnipotent all good being that is trying to bring about. And again, I don't know if the word try means anything when you're talking with an omni God, but whatever. But has a plan in place to bring about the greatest of all goods. That God is constrained. Just like Sai said, he cannot do evil. He cannot lie. He cannot.
Right, so everything he does has to be good.
Right. So if this is his plan, and every part of our existence has been prescribed, which I don't see how you could get around that, then everything has to be good. In other words, all of the rape, all of everything else, as much as we disdain that, it's still the only avenue that God could have used in order to bring about his plan. I
totally agree with you, but I kind of want to keep it in the non-theistic sector here,
right?
Because cosmic skeptic is an atheist, so I mean, I don't want to think that change his position here.
No. I just
totally
wanted to clarify because
sure.
you brought it up.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
But kind of going back, and I think another thing that a lot of people will kind of conflate is objective with absolute, or universal would be a better way to put it. I think even if you have a quote unquote situation where you kind of like going back to that argument, where you are forced into doing something that under different conditions could be considered to be bad, it's still objective in that situation. But
you're doing a bad thing for a greater good, but it's still objectively bad.
I don't know. See, that's where the problem is.
But then you're appealing to consequences. And by the way, which is fine too. It's still objectively bad, but you can appeal to consequences for something else. Because I think people focus too much on the whole are moral propositions objective or subjective. I don't think it matters as much as what do you do in a given situation. If I say, "Hey Ned, you
Yeah.
know, you have this girl in front of me. Should you rape her?" Well, no. Okay. Well, why shouldn't you rape her? You're not going to appeal to objective or subjective morality. That's meta ethics. What you're going to appeal to is consequences. Well, if I do this, I'm going to go to jail. If I do this,
Yeah.
I'm going to hate myself. If I do this,
Well,
I'm violating the law. If you want to do deontologically, there's a reason why you don't do something, right? That has nothing to do with your meta ethics.
yeah, and see that's when when it's flipped, and I'm asked to, I guess, explain my moral grounding. I start from the goal. What am I trying to achieve in whatever situation will drive whatever actions I take. Now, I almost look at that as a universal position. Everyone does that. Um, I haven't really sussed that out, but that's the way I'm leaning. Um, but again, the fluctuation in which action I take, given the situation, in my opinion, doesn't change the fact that if I can, let's say that, I mean, we make one of these stupid, unbelievably unrealistic thought experiments, like the trolley car experiment. I've got to kill an individual or I've got to kill multiple individuals. I don't have a choice in that. The objective good there is going to be dependent on what your goal is and how you feel.
I don't think so. No, I think you're using objective wrong there. I think that you see, there you're kind of looking at it as unbiased, right? There's still it's still objectively. Let's get into the more realist for a second. Let's accept the more realist position for a second. It's still objectively wrong to kill somebody. However, in the trolley car problem, you're making a decision, and that decision is an action based upon normative ethics. So even though you have to do something that's bad, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that it's still objectively wrong to kill somebody anytime, right? If I throw that switch, I am killing somebody. If I don't throw the switch, the question is, if I don't throw the switch, am I killing somebody? No, I'm allowing it to happen. By throwing that switch, you're actually committing an action that is leading to somebody's death. That is killing somebody.
But your inaction, your choice not to act, is an action in itself.
No, it's an action that actually is not causing something to happen. That's that action is allowing it to happen. You're not in that causal chain. If you don't do something and you're not around and you leave, the outcome is not effective. You're not affecting anything in that causal chain. As soon as you pull that switch, now you're part of that system. Now you've affected it. Now you're part of it and you have caused it.
But at the same time, if you are in the vicinity and have the ability to act in order to change the situation, then I would say that you're in action. You're walking away. You're taking yourself out of that, knowing the consequences, knowing what could happen, is an action, is a choice.
Well, I'm not saying that it's not. What I'm saying is your choice has no effect on the outcome. So therefore, you're not.
No, it absolutely. The choice.
You're not listening to it. If you're not in that causal chain, right? You are no way have you affected that system.
But you've affected the system by choosing to take yourself out of that situation.
Non-action is not an effect, not an action. You haven't done anything. Now the question.
Okay. Wait. All right. Then the question
we have.
Then let me ask this.
Sure.
Then let me ask this. You're walking down an alley and you hear a woman screaming a rape. Now you can walk down that and you have the power, let's say, to at least effectively, hopefully stop it, but affect it in some way. Your decision to ignore that and walk on means that you've effectively made no choice.
No. Listen, if you walk away, all that meant is you had the potential to change something. Yep. The potentiality was there, but there was no actuality. So nothing. You have no causal chain relationship there. However, the question is, do you have a moral responsibility to act? Now, there's two ways of looking at it. Legally, which is a deontological way to duties and responsibilities, the legal system says you don't have an obligation. The law has actually said that. People have actually watched people
Oh,
die.
yeah, I know. Yeah,
Right. So we all agree that the law. I think the law sucks on that. But
that's I was going to say. But anyhow, keep going.
But I don't know how you would legislate that. But it sucks. But yeah, you don't have now. But the other question is, do you have a moral responsibility from some other thing other than deontologically? Maybe ariatically, which would be more of a I get. What is it? From utilitarianism. Yeah.
Yep.
So from that approach, or from a consequentialist approach, right? Should I prevent this from happening? Because the consequences would be, if I don't, she's going to have trauma, right? So I would appeal to consequentialism and virtue, maybe virtue ethics.
That's what I was going to say. Virtue ethics would be absolutely part of that.
Sure, absolutely.
So yeah,
bravery, courage, honor. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and I think so. We can extrapolate back to the trolley car. If just because I've got a choice between 5 through inaction versus 1 through action, if we're going to do this, if we're going to put ourselves in that same, or we find ourselves in that situation, I think the non-action, I can see it likened to the ignoring the woman and walking on.
It kind of is, but I think you're missing the point, though. An inaction in of itself is only an action in your reality, in your frame of reference, right? Your inaction is not changing anything in the causal events that's going to cause her to be raped. So if you make a decision that you're not going to do anything, it makes no difference if you're there or not, right? You could be you're completely out of the equation at that point. So you have the potentiality to change something, but you don't. So you're taking an action. Your action is not to do anything, but you're not taking an action that's leading to harm. You can't say an inaction is leading to harm. That makes no sense. It'll allow harms to happen, but it doesn't make it happen, right? It sucks, but that's the only way I can look at it.
Well, I mean, again, that. I mean, there's all these examples running through my head. And,
well, you're an atheist anyways with no morals, so what do you know?
Exactly. I mean, and of course, Godwin's Law would come up immediately and the whole deal. Exactly. So I don't want to get into all that crap. But it's very difficult for me to square understanding that someone or something has the power to reduce or even eliminate suffering. Mm-hmm. And then, because one of my goals is that, and through that inaction,
but that's because you have virtue ethics, though. You're appealing to
right, exactly. But and that's what I'm saying is that when you're arguing against that and saying that no, me doing nothing is a moral, I guess, middle of the road.
Oh, no, it's not. Hang on. No. I think it's morally wrong not to take action. Personally, okay. You're asking me if it's morally wrong, but that's different from me not acting having an influence on the result. There's a big difference there. Me not acting doesn't have any influence on the result. But do I think that you have a moral obligation to act? Yes. So I agree with you there. I think
then let's focus on. That's
us because we're nice people. We're good people.
We're atheists, so
Well, you're an atheist. I'm agnostic, but
okay. It's funny because if I got down to it, I think I would be more agnostic than hard. I'd
make it agnostic out of you easily. You're almost there. You just don't know it. But
no, I mean, I've only used, again, because it's old school. The only reason I use atheist is because it's convenient, and I've been labeled that for 10 years now.
I know.
But when I I think, in fact, it may have been, I don't know if it's a Hovind debate or whatever, but I know in a lot of my debates, I'll say, look, I am a conditional atheist, which puts me very, very close, if not to completely in the agnostic camp. I'm not going to claim that I can know God does not exist.
You don't have to.
Right.
I mean, knowledge has nothing to do with atheism.
Well, the claim in the ability, in the belief that with 100% certainty.
Why do you need certainty? Certainty and knowledge?
Certainty.
Listen to me. Certainty. certainty and knowledge have absolutely nothing to do with atheism or theism.
Exactly.
And they need to stop bringing those things into the discussion. When you're
Well,
talking about atheism and theism, these are belief positions, and stay in the dogmatic realm. Because as soon as you start bringing knowledge, all you're going to do is confuse yourself and other people. Because I've seen people not have a handle on it. This is the one area that I think I have a decent handle epistemically. But when I look at other people and they say, well, I can't believe this because I don't have certainty, that's wrong. That's just fundamentally wrong. You don't have to be convinced.
Right, exactly.
But not certain.
No, that's actually one of the things that I have a problem with presup, is that, again, certainty is not in any way indicative of accuracy. It doesn't show just because I'm certain.
That's true.
Yeah, and
that's right. Let me ask you this, because somebody had brought this up in the live chat, and see, it's hard. These things don't have these morality things don't exist in a vacuum, so it's hard to kind of like say this is what you would do, and then in an entirely different situation with the same exact parameters per se, why you would do something else. For example, people that say that you should pull the switch on the trolley problem, right? There's just been not too long ago a paper that came out where I can't remember her name, but she was a professor. She argued the morally right thing to do is not pull the switch and let the 5 people die. Okay. Now that seems to shock the senses in a way, right? That seems to be counterintuitive. But so the people that say I would pull the switch and let the 1 person die to save the lives of the 5. Okay, so let's look at a consequentialist approach. By doing that, 1 person died by your hand, and 5 people survived. Would you agree that that's the end result?
Right.
Okay, so different scenario. You have 5 people needing organs, and you have 1 healthy person, and then the doctor. Should they kill that 1 person to give his organs to the 5 healthy people? Because the 5 healthy people are going to die anyways.
Yeah,
right?
That's the emergency room.
The emergency room thing. You're familiar with it. We've been down this route before. But I'm asking the live chat, if in one situation it's okay, but in the other it's not, even though the exactly same things, they're going to die. The trolley's going to kill them, or the disease is going to kill them. I'd like to see the argument as why you think in one case it's morally justified to let the 5 people die. And then the other case is to violate the one person's personal autonomy and violate their rights and kill them to say that the 5 people that needing organs.
Are you saying that you want to see an argument that says we ought protect the autonomy, or that we ought to?
No, what I want to see is an argument as to why it's okay in the trolley problem, but not okay in the hospital problem.
Well, I mean, I think I can
at
least give you my version of this.
Yeah.
The reason with the trolley car is this. It is something that is not indicative of what it wouldn't have any effect on ongoing societal norms. In other words, it's almost a one-off. You're not going to be faced with that on an ongoing basis. Whereas if you've got people walking into an emergency room, and the version that I know of is someone, they cut themselves, they just came in to get some stitches, and then there was a big bus crash, and all of these people came in needing organ transplants, and it just so happened that they were all the same blood type, and the guy coming in to get his stitches happened to be a blood match, and all of his organs are viable to be implanted into these people who need them. Well, what that would do is it would erode trust, to say the least, in our medical system, and more people would avoid going to any kind of doctor, because if you happen to be that person that is needing some minor, even if you were going in for something that was relatively harmful, let's say that you thought you were having a heart attack when it was just indigestion. Well, if you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, they may take your heart anyway, and your liver, and your whatever.
I totally agree with you. However, there's a kind of caveat, though.
Yeah.
The caveat is that it's not explaining the moral efficacy of the issue. You're appealing to consequences, right? You're appealing. If we do this, then all this shit about society is going to happen, which I agree with you. And I think that a better way to frame that is more something along the lines of not just that, but the trolley car is an accident waiting to happen. It's an accident. The other ones are just natural course of disease, right? But you said, if it's one-off kind of thing. But morally speaking, the moral ethical concerns is it okay to kill 1 to save 5? Period.
Well, again, I would say that.
With you, by the way, I'm not just.
No, I agree. I mean, I understand that. I mean, here I guess the problem is that, again, if we look at it from pure pragmatic and pain and suffering, just the stress level that would be now associated with any type of medical procedure, regardless of what it is, no matter how benign. You go in to get a splinter removed, a stitch or two. That is literally a life. It could be a life-ending proposition. The stress that involved, the unease in society, the unease in every individual, I would consider to be harmful, i.e., unethical, by creating that type of situation. Does that make sense?
I don't think your answer is that bad. It's just like I said. I think it's still not really addressing the moral considerations, but from other consequences, yes, and I happen to agree with you. But I don't want to keep this one too much longer.
Aren't we? Yeah, aren't we kind of? I mean, because on one hand, we're using consequentialism just to establish
true.
And then when I use that to show what the consequences would be on the backside, I mean, I think that again, if you're going to be a pragmatist in this, then I can see why the two are not.
I love that you put that pragmatism thing in there, because I would appeal to pragmatism as well, and I think that's a perfect way to handle this kind of problem is by a pragmatism method. So I think that's a great way of looking at it. So let's look in the live chat real quick. Like I said, I don't want to keep it too long, but so I think we've determined that there is a problem with cosmic skeptics' position if he's a non-cognitive motivist and an ethical subjectivist. Now, again, the other option is he's not an ethical subjectivist. He's just saying if he was going to evaluate from a realism position, then he would talk about ethical subjectivism and objectivism. But I don't know. But anyways, listen to the live chat. You guys have questions? So what's going on in the live chat? Anybody come up with a good argument for objective reality not being true? Because, like I said, I'm still waiting for one. Dude, I'm telling you, if I see one more person go, objective morality is impossible, I'm like, okay, then why don't you write your freaking paper and get famous? Because it's just as bad as a scientist going or creationist going, something can't come from nothing. Well, no, you're an idiot. That's not. We haven't demonstrated that either, right?
I mean, again, it's tough for me because on one hand, I like you said, going more pragmatic and trying to look at conditional issues that would make actions on one hand good and then on the other hand bad, just which would seem to draw away from objective of an objective moral foundation. But on the other hand, I don't think that fixes it. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think it fixes it all the way.
Yeah. I mean, so somebody points out, like Darwin's greatest hits points out in the live chat, there's some pretty technical arguments against realism, and I've seen some of them, and they are pretty technical. And I'm not saying there's not some arguments to be had against realism, but that's not my argument. When somebody says I'm arguing against realism, that's fine. When they say objective morality is impossible, that's a whole different argument. To demonstrate that objective morality is impossible, you need a logical proof. You need to show, in my opinion, by reductio of some kind, that it is a logically impossible situation, that under no conditions, any possible world, that objective morality exists. I don't think this ever happened. Yeah, no, I know Darwin's greatest. I know all those arguments. I fall under the first one, queerness. I know that sounds weird, but yeah, I mean the argument from queerness. I like that argument from Mackey. And so, I think that Mackey does have some good arguments against moral realism, but that's not what people think when they look at error theory, right? When they look at moral nihilism, the only reason that these propositions are not expressing moral facts is only because they have two factors. One, moral propositions are queer; they're a lot different than we do from moral facts, and two, there's an instantiation problem when you're dealing with things like properties like wrongness, because what does it mean to be stealing is wrong? What does it mean to have a property of wrongness to instantiate it with? I don't even know what that would mean. So I do tend to error theory in that regard, which is against realism. I get that, but that's not my argument. My argument is when people say objective morality is impossible, that's just a completely different ballgame. Right?
Well, I do think that you could get there using an omnigod. I think that there is no way you get to objective morality with the existence of an omniscient God. or an omni-powerful God. Sorry.
Um, I again, when it comes to the deity, that does fall under ethical subjectivism. But so many people can make the argument, well, it's an ethical subjective position. However, if God says something wrong, and because of the Euthyphro dilemma, right?
Right. Yeah.
If you pick one horn of it and say whatever God commands is good, you could then use that as objective standard. I don't see why you couldn't.
No, because that's mind contingent. If God is the one mandating it, then he by definition has.
Okay, I'm sure you're right. You know what? The other horn, God, the other, not because God commands it that is good. It's good. It's God commands it because it's good.
But he's okay, and the way that I would get around
that's outside his mind, though. It's arbitrary, but it's outside his mind.
But again, if God is the creator of all things, then he was the one who created those conditions in the first place that would constrain.
Oh, I agree. There's a problem. There's a problem there because there's something of what's called higher value than to God itself. Whatever horn you picked is a problem.
Well, but again, that I think the way to argue that, as far as to get rid of a notion of objective or absolute morality, would be to say
two different things. By the way, don't conflate them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, objective and absolute.
Absolute are two different. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people get there, but I think even either or is what I meant to say on that end of it. Is that you can't get there, because if you said God is the creator of everything, then even those morals that are quote unquote outside him were created by him.
Mm-hmm.
And being omni, he chose to create them that way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Subjective choice.
I totally agree with you. And that's why both horns of the Euthyphro dilemma have real bad issues. But I'm just saying that if you choose that second horn, that God commands things because it's good, granted, you have the exact problem you just discussed. I fully admit that. But that doesn't really matter to the fact that it still would be objective to us, because God's commanding something because it's good. It's subjective to us. Now, why he does that, I have no idea. Why? Well, how could there possibly be something of higher value? Like you said, a system of morals that he didn't design. He had to, because he's all powerful and all knowing and all that other things, right? So,
but again, I would say that is a conditional objective state. In other words, that the condition is from a human perspective. From God's perspective, it was subjective because he chose to create things in a way that mandated that those outside oughts existed.
No, not necessarily. I don't think it'd be subjective. I think it'd be arbitrary more than anything else. He arbitrarily picked whatever to be good, but subjective just means
it's mind contingent.
It's mind contingent. But
right.
But is he saying it would be subjective if I said, stealing is bad because I believe stealing is bad. So
right.
if you say, hey, God says this is immoral because he believes it to be immoral, right? But is it because God believes it to be immoral, or is it because it's immoral that God commands it? If it's a second horn, then I think you might get rid of that subjective defeater.
Not if he's responsible for all creation.
That's a different issue, though. That's a different issue. Still, I'm just saying it takes it out of the mind of God. It just makes it not subjective any longer. We're getting too deep. But anyways, standing for truth. I saw in the live chat. I guess we're having a discussion on some channel in the next couple of days somewhere. Something standing for truth. I love these discussions with you, Ned. By the way, you know that I missed that. Very few people can kind of have a good back and forth on these things without losing their shit.
I hear you. That's definitely something that's tough to find. By the way, speaking of that, do you remember a guy? Me and him used to hang out all the time together. Matthew Steele.
That name does sound familiar.
For the last 3 years or so, he's really been going through some tough times and living in a place where literally he didn't have any internet connection. His life is really turned around, and I'm so happy for him. I mean, he's a great guy, period.
That's good.
And I think that, we've been conversing over the years anyway, just because we're good friends. And I think we may be trying to put something together, I don't know, November or December, something like that, and just coming on and hanging out. He's another guy that if you like this type of discussion, I think he's even better than I am as far as maintaining a very calm demeanor and, very rational, very, so I would highly recommend, he's a good guy. He really is.
Yeah, no, hook me up. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay, so I was asked Stan if you want to join, but you can't, which is kind of good because I'm going to close this up soon. So let me ask the live chat. Do you guys think that? Do you guys are? You guys are more non-cogs or cogs? From what we described tonight, in live chat, tell me what you think that you would be. Would you be a moral non-cognitivist or a moral cognitivist? And a moral cognitivist would be a subjectivist or an objectivist. Non-cognitivist would be an emotivist, a prescriptionist, or an expressivist. They're all different, but a prescriptionist would basically be somebody who says that stealing is wrong. That means don't steal, right? It's almost like a commandment: don't steal, and don't steal is not truth apt. So if it's not truth apt, it's a non-cognitive position. So basically, cognitive means that yes, there are propositions that express beliefs. Stealing is wrong is I believe stealing is wrong. That'd be a cognitive position. Non-cognitive position would be that moral propositions do not express beliefs and are not truth apt. So what do you guys think you are? Because I don't know too many non-cogs. I think they're pretty rare.
Smitty says he's non. I think.
Smitty says Red's a moral cognitivist, objectivist. Okay, that's. I think there's a lot more people that have objectivism than just subjectivism, and I don't think it's one or the other. I think that when people are afraid to say that they believe in objective morality because people just jump on them like they're an idiot. I'm like, no, that's not a bad position. And none of these positions are. This is the funniest thing. You want to get all meta and shit. None of these positions are right or wrong.
I know that my wife hammers me all the time. She's like, she's. I don't know if I've ever said this, but she holds 2 masters in a PhD, and she is an Air Force Academy grad, all in mathematics, and is now going back to school to get an MD because apparently being one doctor is not good enough. But she's like, why do you like these conversations? And I'm like, because they don't have answers. It's fun. And she's like, awesome. That's what drives me nuts. There's no way to get to an answer.
That's what's fun to think about. I mean,
I agree.
I think it's great when you can posit things and you can run arguments. And if you're wrong, and you get corrected and you fix things and you increase your skills. That's all we basically do in the great debate community and just in these conversations and even on non sequitur. We all throwing our positions out there and we get shit on for them, but we're willing to take a stand. And I gotta tell you, I see a lot of people in other communities, they're not. They'll just make claims left and freaking right. They'll never back it up, right? And there'll be chicken shits to even engage in this kind of conversation. And that's what I call out, because look, we've done this for a while. We've been in, how many hangouts have we gone to other people's hangouts? We're like, bring it on. And if we sometimes we're like, okay, yeah, I didn't do so well, but that's fine.
But no, that's not fine. That's, again, like I said, well, exactly. That's what I want to happen. I mean, as much as it may sound, I don't know, like I'm just full of shit, but I honestly, those are the best conversations because, like you said, when you get quote unquote proven wrong, that's when you get to grow. That's when you get to step back and go, okay, that was wrong. Now let me rearrange everything, and now let me find this new knowledge and how I can fit that in and either square the circle or have to throw out the belief and adopt a new one. Yeah. That's how you grow.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, but people, like, oh, such and such was wrong about something else. And I'm like, well, did they correct it? Well, yeah, then who gives a shit? Everybody gets stuff wrong. It's when you get something wrong and you don't correct it when it's overwhelming that you're wrong. And I correct myself the other day just on minor stuff. Like the other day, with the whole Rappaport thing. And by the way, my 24-hour thing is over, I think, because I couldn't talk about it for 24 hours. It's over.
I didn't even know you
promised. Yeah, I promised a friend of mine.
Gotcha.
But anyways.
And to be clear, you are going to speak with him, right?
No.
Oh, you're not? Damn.
No.
I was under the impression that he actually agreed to come on it because I was like, oh, this is going to be a bloodbath. This is going to be awesome.
It's so much more weirder than that. But but I was using him as an example. He'll make claims, but he'll never leave his little echo chamber to back him up. And tomorrow I'm going to be calling him out on all his claims that he made that I have called him out on that he said he didn't make. Guess what? I have the video of him making these claims, and I have the screenshots of him denying it. It is incontroversial or incontrovertible that he absolutely lied about these things. And people can say, well, he doesn't remember. Oh, bullshit. And even if that's the case, even if that's the best possible case that he just totally forgot, which is highly unlikely when you watch this film, he was berating somebody for not knowing this stuff, right? Berating somebody for not knowing what he throwing out his bullshit. He called me a liar. He called me a liar for accusing him of saying these things, and he said he never said it. And that alone, I would be owed an apology. Would you not think? If I have if he says I never said this, and I have the entire sentence word for word that I copied down that he said in a video, and he calls me a liar, then clearly I think I'm owed an apology, at least on that aspect. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, and if not, if he doesn't feel like he owes you an apology, then he at least should give you the courtesy of coming on and saying, this is why you heard that, but what I meant was to clear it up.
Oh, no, he said it more than once. That's the funniest thing. I mean, he talked about it at length in a few different places, and he said the same thing over again. So it wasn't like a one-off. He actually believes this.
Yeah, and that's the point, is if you're wrong, accept it, move on, whatever. But if you're trying to hide it and you're trying to say that it's not, and someone calls you on your bullshit, you can't get aggressive. You have to say, yeah, you caught me. I was full of shit. I'm sorry for, but to call you a liar is way out of line.
Yeah. He would say a normal person would be like, well, fuck, I did say that. You know what? I'm so sorry. I don't remember saying that. I called you a liar and I totally take it back. I'm totally wrong. And most people would be like, you know what? I accept your apology, move the fuck on, and they don't bring it up any longer. That's not going to happen in this case. He's not going to apologize to me. I guarantee. It just would blow my mind, right? If he wants to see me like have my brain have an aneurysm, it's somebody like him actually apologizes and says, oh, I got something wrong, because I just never seen it happen. So
yeah, and that's what's sad is, they come across as, especially in that group.
So watch tomorrow, guys. You're gonna be. I'm using the live chat tomorrow as the jury. I'm making an argument like I would be from a prosecuting attorney, and you tell me if I have met not only my burden of proof, but overwhelmingly convinced you that he has lied multiple times. He's been dishonest, and then that's not even getting into the whole LBGQ thing. Oh man, that's gonna be a whole different ballgame. You heard about that, right?
No, I haven't. Again, I haven't been around.
He made a video yesterday, and he related the LBGQ movement, and he added one more thing called M. And M stands for MAPS. And this is a movement by a group of people that have identified as MAPS to get into the lesbian, gay, transgender community.
What is a MAP?
Minor attractive person. Or minor attracted person. So basically a pedophile, right?
Wow.
And of course the LBGQ community has said, oh, you've got to be out of your fucking minds.
Yeah.
You are not related to us. You are not in our movement. We want nothing to do with you, right? But no, does that matter to him? No, he added them in anyways because he wants to make the narrative that somehow that pedophilia is related to homosexuality, because these guys are bigots like you believe. And by the way, guys, the video I have tomorrow, you'll see how much these people are bigots. You will see firsthand how they treat somebody who's transgender. And this person who's transgender is not even one of my friends, somebody who's banned from my hangouts, but I have never treated her disrespectively because she's a transgender person. Not once. I'm defending her in this particular video because she's right. She gets one minor thing, if I remember, one or two things, minor things incorrect. But for the most part, she's absolutely right. And whether I can't stand her or whatever, she's right. And I will go from that position, right? So I'm going to be defending her to no end because they shit on her for being transsexual more than what she's arguing. And I think that's shit.
That absolutely shit. I mean, and for them to try to conflate pedophilia with,
it's sick, isn't it?
Oh my, yeah. I mean,
yeah, it is.
Well, yeah. I mean, that would be like saying, no, the MEPs need to go with Christianity because everything we see from the Catholic Church, not to mention other, pastors that have been busted for, the pedophilia. So I think that would fit into that group a whole lot better than anything from the LGBTQ, hey, these are all adults
That's true, but they quote in this video. They even say that they're repulsed by homosexuality and transgender. They are repulsed, as I believe the word they used, if I'm not mistaken.
Again, I mean, the small-mindedness and the vilification of two people that just want to love each other. How do you take a quote-unquote message from their deity that says love everyone?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then vilify these people that just want to have relationships and love each other.
I don't get it either. And by the way, thank you for mentioning the person's name, Abad. I didn't really want to mention Brenda's name because I'm saving it for tomorrow. But yeah, Brenda was banned from my Hangouts for sniping and for various other reasons. So she's not welcome in my Hangouts. As a matter of fact, she's been a pariah everywhere. But this was a year ago that this happened, and I have the video downloaded. But but she went in there and she confronted them, and it's not going to be good for these people. So I'm going to be exposing them for the lying bigots that they are. And yeah, they absolutely lied. And people are like, well, Steve's throwing that word around liar. I don't do that often. In fact, I said I was going to go all this year without calling somebody a liar. I've made it all the way to, what is this, October? Yeah, that's pretty goddamn good. But I can't help. There's no way I can work around it. He lied on multiple occasions, and I have the overwhelming evidence that he lied about not accepting his terms, right? Not accepting his debate things. I accepted. I did accept. And yet he changed it, or him lying about me going on a show on Thursday. I never said I was going to go on a show on Thursday. In fact, I have multiple screenshots showing him that I will not be in there on Thursday. Him recognize him. Oh, okay. Well, why do you tell me this now? You want to be here Thursday. And then after the show, he's like, well, as I predicted kind of thing, or, Steve didn't show. Fuck you. It's just it's so comical. It's there's only way you can look at it is that he lied. I don't know. I'm trying to be as charitable possible, and he's either lying or pathological liar. I'm going to go with the most charitable at the moment. It just says lying, but I don't know.
I mean, again, the lying issue, I agree that he at least owes you a apology, as far as especially sound with the information it looks like you're going to be able to produce. But the LGBTQ thing is holy. I mean,
okay, let me address two things real quick. GPH, you're a fucking idiot. Screenshots can be edited, but these are Twitter screenshots. You can go look at the timeline, you dumbass motherfucker. Okay, so do not pull that bullshit with me, because I will remove you in a fucking heartbeat. I am not in a mood to deal with your trolling right now. So don't be a goddamn stupid asshole. If you want to be a part of the conversations, because I told you before you could be, but even when they stopped timing you out, because I told them to stop timing you out, and I said, can he be normal? You decided to come back and not be normal. Okay, so I'm not going to have it any longer. Be a normal person, have a normal conversation with anybody else, but don't pull this goddamn stupid shit. Like, you can edit Twitter. No, you can't edit Twitter, you asshole. You fucking moron. I mean, how do you edit Twitter? I would love to have an edit function in Twitter. You can't. And even consider the possibility that I'm going to fabricate data. You can go fuck yourself.
I mean,
okay, but that said, the other person. Oh, by the way, yeah. So I got the video from Abad. By the way, thank you for finding that, pointing out. Why would you, GPH? Why would you say you can edit a screenshot if you're not what you're doing is called guilt by complex question fallacy. Okay, you're implying somehow by implicature that I am somehow manipulating screenshots because it's possible to do so. Right? Because you can. Well, you know what else I can do? I can fucking hide you from this channel. Go fuck yourself. You're done. I just have no use for him any longer. By the way, you're welcome, people. Everybody in the live chat's been telling me fucking just get rid of him. So you're welcome. Do you guys agree that he's just worthless to have in the channel any longer? Let me know. Anyways, so Nat, I want to thank you for joining me. This was fun. I said, I enjoy these things.
Not a problem.
And I'll get in touch with Cosmic, and again, I tagged this on him, so let him see if if he can try to suss it out, because like I said, I don't want to misrepresent him. I like Alex a lot, I really do. The guy is just brilliant. I don't think he really made some great arguments against rationality rules. I think he made some points, but I happen to fall under Stephen's camp, rationality rules. But they're both brilliant guys. I mean, I love listening to them talk. So this is not condemning Cosmic Skeptic at all. This is not saying he's wrong by any stretch of imagination. This video was just, I really was trying to suss out his position because it was making no sense to me to how you take a moral, non-cognitivist, emotivist position and then seem to advocate for subjectivism, right? So
yeah.
Okay, so by the way, not one person didn't think that getting rid of GPH was a good idea. So whatever. Ned, you got the last word. Take us out, buddy.
No, thanks again. And I hate to put it this way, but I wanted to make it clear. Again, Cy, if you happen to see this and you want to finish out with GNOME, or more interestingly, if you wanted to go into my problems I have with the presup argument, specifically yours, well, I should say Vantillian, but and Bonson for sure. I would love the opportunity to do that again, and I really enjoyed the conversation. Steve, thanks.
You're welcome. Was that the first time we ever talked to Cy?
Yeah, that's the first time. I had felt like he was kind of ignoring me for a while, and I was surprised that he knew who I was, because I thought I'd shot him.
Maybe we're going to make something more formal.
Oh yeah, and again, I'm me. I'm like you. I like the just kind of open conversation, dialogue back and forth. And to be honest, that's how I structure my arguments. They work a whole lot better that way than the formal opening versus,
Yeah, no, I didn't mean like that. I didn't mean formal as in structured. I just meant as in like a discussion in like a non sequitur or something. This just like this, but only on that channel or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. Especially
he wants to.
Oh well, that I would love to do that, especially on the presup, because that's the one that, yeah, I mean, if he wants to know on the moral side, that's all on my channel, and he could, he can see all that. I mean, I've got all of that lined out, formal and informal, presentations of those arguments. But the presup deal is something that I've kind of been working on in the shadows, and it would be something fun to kind of suss out with him and see if I'm on the right track, if what I'm saying makes any sense, or if he can show me, look, you're completely off base here. That doesn't work at all.
Yeah. So, no, I think that's going to be fun. So I'm going to end this. So guys, leave me comments in the video section what you think about my understanding of this, and let me know what you think about Cosmic Skeptics. I will tell you this: the first person or any person who says objective morality is impossible, or there's no such thing as objective morality, I'm going to give you one chance to explain yourself, and I'm going to call you an idiot and be done with you. If you can't give me a good argument for it, I'm just going to call you an idiot and be done, because I'm not going to spend wasting my time with people that make these assertions and they don't back them up, because I have 1,000 messages I got to deal with, and I'm not going to get involved in something where a person doesn't even understand the arguments, right? So if you tell me that objective morality doesn't exist, or all morals are objective, and you won't give me a really good argument, I'm just going to call you an idiot, and the conversation's over at that point. So is that fair?
You asking me, or you asking this?
Live chat? I'll ask you.
I mean,
I'm getting short tempered. I got a lot to do, right? And I don't have time for
right. And I think that's the deal, is that since I am so open and I don't do this so infrequently, my approach has always been to feed the trolls. I enjoy playing with them.
It only goes so far, though. I mean,
right. But I
don't have the time any longer. I did for the longest time. But I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm working. I have a presentation on Monday to do on DNA, right? I'm doing. I'm arguing against John Perry from State of Clary, who I have a massive amount of respect for. That's taking some time. I got to get the presentation together for tomorrow. I'm sitting in my chair 8 hours a day working on crap for these channels. And responding to messages, and I'm not going to respond to ones that I think are so just jejune that I don't want to waste my time with it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that due to your time constraints, yeah, I think that's fair. I think that if you have people that literally want to discuss it, then they need to lead with the argument, not lead,
and thank you.
Then you're fine.
Thank you. Like I had somebody the other day that's like, like Steve's wrong about 1 plus 0.99 repeating equals 1, and they didn't. I said, what's your reasoning for this? They had nothing. I'm like, fuck off, and I just removed them. I won't even waste my time on it. If you're going to put forth bad information, you can get the fuck off my page. All right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I love my live chat. You guys are all great. Sorry I didn't let people in. I didn't want this to go very long. I got things I got to finish, and I know if I brought a whole bunch of people in, I wouldn't get what I wanted to get out. So, next time. And Ned, you want to plug your channel real quick?
Oh yeah, negation of P at well, it's not at anything. It's negation of P channel YouTube. Um, just to warn everybody, I do very little. In fact, the last original argument I posted was over 2 years ago. So the only thing I'll post now is pretty much debates, unless I come up with a different argument, which I'll probably make a formalized argument of the precept deal after I ferret it out a little bit. But that's kind of all my channel is about, is just any argument that I come up with that I think is a little more nuanced or a little different, I'll put up. But I'm not real active. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're a busy guy too, but if you guys ever want to check it out, go check out Negation of P's debate with True Empiricism.
That was a fun debate. That was interesting.
Just that solidified. I'm like, I want to do this. I want to be like that guy. I was like, I really want to be able to destroy people, and so destroy people with bad, that have bad arguments. But anyways, good night, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. We got a couple different shows going on tomorrow. We have actually 2 for non sequitur, and I think we're doing something else too. Yeah, we're doing a show with Milwaukee Atheist early in the morning. I think like 11 something or other. So I don't know what time that is, but we were doing a Bible study with him or something. But anyways, guys, I will see you tomorrow. Good night.